If you love movies and movie discussions, you've come to the right place. Who am I, you ask? I am The Wiz, and I'm here today to review the 1968 horror film Kuroneko, directed by Kaneto Shindo. I've heard many times before that if there is one country that does great ghost stories, horror and stuff like that, it's the Japanese. Like Ringo came from Japan. They have Takashi Miike makes a lot of films that are basically horror or just plain old disturbing. So, ooh. But I definitely want to watch something from that region today for this week, for Halloween week. And it was between this and Onibaba. And I've heard Onibaba is really good, but I saw this and I was like, you know what? I'll give this a shot. Also, like, I'm a big Criterion Collection fan, and I like the cover. I thought the cover was cool. So I was like, how bad could it be? Is it bad? Let's find out. Let's get to the review of Kuroneko, directed by Kaneto Shindo. This week started off positive. I watched Beetlejuice and really liked it. And Kuroneko was something that I was very interested in and I wanted to check out. And I have to report that I'm not entirely thrilled with it. I don't know if it's the mix of the fact that I'm just not a horror fan, or that the film just didn't affect me at all. It didn't scare me. It didn't really do much for me. I'm not going to say I hate the film. I don't hate the film. There are positive aspects to this film that I did like, but overall, I just felt like I didn't get much out of it. This will be a spoiler review. I'm going to do light spoilers. I'm going to go into vagueness about certain plot points in the movie. We're not going to have a spoiler section. Kuroneko, or if you want to do the translation, which is Black Cat. If you go onto IMDb and you look up Kuroneko, Black Cat is what you're going to see. So if you're confused by that, that's why. So Kuroneko is basically a movie about two women who are raped and killed by a roving band of samurai in like the first 5 minutes of the film. They don't show the sexual assault, thank God, but it is quite clear what happened. And then from that point, you learn as the film goes that they pledged fealty to a demon god that basically said that they have to kill and drink the blood of samurai. I would say for the first 30 to 45 minutes, it's interesting. It's definitely atmospheric. I will say this, because the way that the film is shot and the way that the sequences between the girls and their victims are done, it's very ethereal and a mood to it. It's definitely a little bit of a unique kind of look that they have for this movie. But that's the first half. And I do like it, but I gotta be honest, I was kind of hoping, like, okay, maybe this will get interesting. Like, I like the way it looks, I like the mood, I like the ambiance, but what's behind it? And I don't think there was much behind this movie. So here's what happens, okay? And this is why I denoted spoilers in this movie right away, is that basically you learn halfway through the film that basically the two women were not like mother and daughter. They were a mother and a daughter-in-law. So the mother basically had a son who was working in the fields, who was conscripted immediately to fight a war that was up north. And basically the samurais took him and they made him fight. You learn this about more than a third, but close to a halfway through the movie, that there is another character that you don't know about. That was kind of a cop-out to me. I was like, really? You don't have anything more interesting than that? Like, okay, fine. Go to that point, and the son is finally introduced in the film, and I think it's a weak part of the film. Basically, the son becomes a samurai, and then he's charged to find out how these samurai are getting killed and who is killing them. And the second half of the film is basically the son realizing who the ghosts are, and it goes from there somewhat. I think this part of the plot line was pretty half-baked. Visually, I like the movie, but as time went on and I was watching the movie, I became less and less interested. I'll put it this way. I got so disinterested in the movie that after it ended, and this was about an hour and 30-minute film, after it ended, I like to basically review movies a day later so I can digest and really formulate my thoughts on what I think of it. After about 2 hours, I forgot how the film ended. Like I actually had to literally, I was going through a synopsis of the film, like, wait a minute, what happened? Oh, yeah. That's what happened. And even then, like, the ending of the film is kind of like, so what happened? I don't mind an ambiguous ending. I don't mind an ending that makes you think. But this movie doesn't give you much to chew on when it comes to thinking about what happened. I think this movie is definitely more of a mood piece. It's more of an atmospheric movie that you come to see the interesting visuals than you really see anything much of a story, because the story is, it's pretty basic. Like, the first half is women get killed, they turn to ghosts, they kill samurai. That's the first half. And that's like the interesting part of the movie. And then the second half, when the son is involved, it's kind of like, okay, so then he has to figure out what's going on. And they don't really do much interesting with that. I will say this, I've read a bunch of places too that people seem to think of this more as a companion piece to Onibaba, which I've heard is actually a really good movie and is actually pretty scary. I might have to have watched that first in order to enjoy Kuroneko here. Honestly, I'm not saying this is a terrible movie, but I definitely didn't get much out of this. It didn't really resonate at all with me. I guess quickly we'll get into performances. I already went into direction and went into writing. Performances, they're fine. I like the actor who played Shige, who is the daughter character. I think she's pretty good. And then I kind of like the actor who played Reiko, who is the boss of the son in this movie. I thought he was all right, but really there's not much for these actors to chew on here. I like stories and characters, and this movie doesn't have that much at all to it. I'll say this though, okay? I think if you do like this type of horror, if you like an atmospheric horror, if you like a horror that is more about the visuals and setting up a mood and a setting, I can see somebody enjoying this. I don't think this is terrible to the point where I'd say don't watch it. I did not get much out of it. So, final thoughts on Kuroneko. It's atmospheric. It's got some nice visuals. It's short. I think the first half is pretty good. It's interesting. But the second half just didn't do anything for me. As I said in the review, I kind of got bored as time went on, almost to the point where I basically noped out of it after a while. Not even just noped out of it. I forgot what happened at the end after just an hour or two. Like, and to me, that's like a film that not only didn't interest me, but it also like didn't stick with me. It wasn't. It's not like it's so terrible I will remember for the rest of my life, like I did with Love Story. My God, that was terrible. It's nothing like that. Just don't think it was that entertaining, and even with the things that it was trying to talk about, I don't think it was that interesting in that aspect too. I'm going to give this 1.5 out of 5 stars. Again, put into perspective here, I am not a horror fan. Horror is not my thing. I don't like horror. So if you're hearing this and you've seen it and go, that's kind of harsh, I'm like, well, bring it to mind. Not a horror fan. But I think visually it's interesting, but other than that, there's not much more to it. That's 1.5 out of 5 stars for Kuroneko. I guess I should have watched Onibaba first, but unfortunately, that's how it is. Okay, so for next week, I am going to review something from this year, and this got a really good critical reception. I've seen the first movie of this already, and somehow this is on the best list of both Letterboxd and IMDb. And the first one was too, but I don't understand as to why that was. I am watching Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah, I saw the first one. I liked it. I actually liked it very much, and I think it's one of the better comic book movies. But for those of them who are saying this is one of the best movies ever made, I was like, that's kind of pushing it. But, okay. Tune in next week where I review Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I am The Wiz, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.